sexting. Now, that's when someone uses a cell phone to pass along naked pictures. In many states, those teens face child pornography charges, but does the punishment fit the crime? Here's NBC's Peter Alexander.
There is texting, and then there's sexting, taking and sending explicit photos by cell phone or over the internet. It's increasingly common among teenagers, and that's the problem. Currently, many state laws say underage teens who sext can be charged with possessing or distributing child pornography. Take Florida teenager Philip Alford. At 18, he was caught emailing nude photos his ex-girlfriend had sent him. He's now a registered sex offender in Florida.
It's ruined a big part of my life, and it's going to be ruining my life for a very long time.
The state of Vermont is trying to prevent that from happening here, proposing a new bill that would protect teens who sext from being charged with child pornography and labeled as sex offenders.
We heard evidence that up to 20% of America's teens are sexting. And I certainly don't want to see 20% of our teens charged with child pornography.
Here in Vermont, at least one teenager, a former student at this high school, is facing charges related to sexting. And many teenagers say the punishment doesn't fit the crime.
I think it's okay for boyfriends and girlfriends to do it, and as long as it's consensual. I mean, without any force or pressuring to do it.
I think we need to work on self-esteem with girls, because I think a lot of it is they're just looking for the attention and like feedback, and like it's the thrill of putting yourself out there.
Do you think someone who sends sext messages should be considered a sex offender?
No.
No.
Absolutely not.
No. It's too harsh?
Yes. Way.
But sometimes sexting can have devastating consequences. Last year in Ohio, 18-year-old Jessie Logan sent an explicit photo of herself to her then boyfriend. But the situation soon spiraled out of control. The photo was circulated around her school. Ultimately, the public humiliation was overwhelming, and Jessie Logan took her own life.
I scanned the room and her closet doors were open. And I walked over into her room and saw her hanging. Her cell phone was in the middle of the floor.
Experts argue the focus should be on educating underage teens, making them aware of what can happen when you sext, without charging them as sex offenders. For today, Peter Alexander, NBC News, South Burlington, Vermont.
Vermont State Senator John Campbell is the state's Senate Majority Leader, and Donna Rice Hughes is an internet safety expert. Senator Campbell and Donna, good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Senator, if I could start with you, the law that is being proposed in Vermont would protect kids from being prosecuted as sex offenders, but some have suggested that what it is doing is essentially legalizing sexting. You say that's not true. Why?
I do, Meredith. I think that is actually giving you a mischaracterization to that. What we're doing is we have looked at, and when we decided to expand our sex offender registry, we felt we looked at this new phenomena of sexting, and we felt there are certain instances that we needed to make sure to protect those teenagers who make really bad decisions. And in doing so, we found that it would be best for us to exclude certain circumstances from prosecution, and it would be easy for us to just walk away and let all these cases be handled by prosecutors. But we believe that it's incumbent upon us as legislators to deal with the issue directly.
But do you worry that it is sending a message to teenagers that it is okay to behave in this very risky way?
And I think that's what's important about this story and how this goes forward throughout the country right now. And we have to understand that there is certainly a difference between bad behavior and bad decision-making and criminal behavior. And I think also the parents really of our teenagers today really have to also step forward and realize that we have a situation because of this phenomena that the kids have to be told and be taught that some of these actions and activities that I consider to be very unhealthy, that they could face serious consequences for their actions.
Well, Donna, how should we be educating these kids to understand the consequences?
Well, education is key, absolutely, Meredith. And we also need to tread carefully and recognize that the current child pornography laws do allow for prosecutorial discretion. But education is the key, teaching kids to think before they post, and that there are no takebacks, and this type of behavior can harm them, can harm others, and have serious repercussions. And also just, you know, think to 10 or count to 10 before you send. But parents are really the key here. Parents are the first line of defense, which is why we at Enough is Enough partnered with the Department of Justice to create and develop our Internet Safety 101 Empowering Parents program. And we deal with these issues and we help parents understand how kids are using the internet, sometimes in unhealthy ways, and also the other dangers that they're coming across, and then equipping those parents with rules and tools. And if parents would apply those across all these internet-enabled devices, like the mobile phones with the sexting situations, by limiting what they can you know, whether they can turn off the texting features, for instance, and they can even limit internet access. So there's so many tools out there, and we really need to take a good comprehensive look at this before we start, you know, considering changing laws.
You know, Senator Campbell, in Ohio, they're considering changing the law so that this is a misdemeanor because they believe it shouldn't be a felony and the child should not be treated as a sex offender, but there should be repercussions for their actions. Did Vermont consider that?
Well, actually, we do have that. We have a situation where if there's coercion or if there's other extenuating circumstances, the individuals could be charged with lewd lascivious conduct, voyeurism. There's a multitude of charges that can be brought. But Meredith, I think it's extremely important for America to understand is that when we're talking about our children here, these teenagers who make very bad decisions, that if a 14 or 15-year-old girl, let's say, decides to send a photograph of her breast to her boyfriend who's 15, she has just then become a transmitter of child pornography, and he is in possession of child pornography. And as such, then they are now on the lifetime registry, the sex offender registry. So take that a little bit further and see what's going to happen. We have a child who now, as a registered sex offender, if they're lucky to get into college, that somebody, because they have to register when they get to college, if they're fortunate enough to get there and they want to, let's say, go into a teaching profession, do you think that they're going to be hired as a teacher when they've been charged with possession of child pornography? The answer is probably not.
Yeah, it's a very, very serious situation. I'm going to have to cut it off there, Donna, because we're running out of time.
Okay, but they don't have to go on the sex offender registry. There is prosecutorial discretion currently in the child pornography laws.
Well, we can disagree.
We're going to have to stop it there. I think this is a topic that we will be back discussing at a later date because obviously it affects a lot of kids and parents. Senator John Campbell, Donna Rice Hughes, thanks so much. And now let's get a check of the weather.